On the official website of the White House, January 6th is referred to as a day that will live in infamy. And this is what the website has to say about that day that we all lived through, we all witnessed, we all know what happened. And I'm assuming this was written, yes, it was written in the wake of his egregious pardons of the almost 1,500 insurrectionists who were indicted, tried, and in many cases sentenced in the wake of their committing horrific crimes against the United States of America and its people. Donald took decisive action to pardon January 6 defendants who were unfairly targeted, overcharged, and used as political examples. They were not protected by the leaders who failed them. They were punished to cover incompetence. That is the official record of January 6th. All day today, I've been feeling weird. And I've been thinking, this is like, imagine, if you will, we were told in the aftermath of September 11th that September 11th hadn't happened. Imagine if those of us who were actually driving into Manhattan while the planes flew into the World Trade Center, those of us who were in the building, those of us who witnessed the horrific deaths of so many Americans, those of us who know people who died trying to save the people trapped in the building. Didn't happen. Didn't happen. In a way, September 11th was essentially used for the malign purposes of the Bush administration. September 11th presented this country and indeed the world with a unique opportunity to fix things. But the people in power had other ideas and understood that their best course of action was to do what authoritarians and weak-willed politicians often do. They use tragedies not to unite us, but to divide us. But it's not as if we were told September 11th it didn't happen. It's just that they egregiously took advantage of the horrors of that day to get us into a war that killed so many people needlessly. January 6th obviously is a different matter for a very obvious reason. Our own government did it to us. And our own government, the same government, actually, thanks to the idiocy, the cruelty, the bigotry of almost 78 million Americans, plus the 80 million Americans who don't even bother to vote. They are now engaging in the kind of revisionist history that fascists engage in so that they can continue to divide us against each other and continue to destroy what they started to destroy on that day 5 years ago. This is what happens when you don't hold people accountable. This is what happens when you squander your advantage and you squander the momentum when you allow people to get complacent, when you encourage people to start to believe maybe it wasn't that bad, when you give permission to corporate media to normalize the most abnormal, anti American, unconstitutional behavior that has been engaged in since the Civil War. We know what happened. They know what happened. The difference is they have the power right now to make sure that what happened is forgotten, or perhaps worse, that what happened didn't matter. As is so often the case these days, it's up to us to keep those memories alive and to remind people who is responsible for the crimes against this country, to remind people what a horrific bargain it is to put back into power somebody as broken, as depraved, and as corrupt as the man who incited the insurrection against his own government in the first place. If January 6th gets forgotten, it's because we will have allowed it to be forgotten. Let's not do that. Let's dive in. Five very, very long years it has been. And of course, January 6th is one of those days that we don't ever forget. It's what they call a flashbulb memory. I remember exactly where I was. I remember exactly the conversations I had that day. I remember very clearly my confusion because it took a while to figure out what was actually going on. We had a very limited window into what was happening at the Capitol that afternoon, because obviously it depended on where the cameras were. And at one point, I remember thinking, where are the police officers? Because I didn't see any. Of course, there was a lot of smoke. There was a lot of smoke from people shooting off, what are they called? I can't remember what they're called, but there was bear spray everywhere. There were smoke bombs. I mean, it was chaos. And actually, I didn't take it because I couldn't process it and because it wasn't clear what was happening. I remember not really taking it very seriously. You know, the very first conversation I had, I was being interviewed by somebody, I don't remember who. And I just remember I said something like, it's so tawdry. It's so Donald, because it was just a mess. And it just seemed like a bunch of losers who support him loitering around the Capitol, mucking things up. Then, of course, reality set in and the picture became clearer. Of course, 5 years later, Donald, many of the corporate media, the entirety of the Republican Party. They've done everything in their power. They're not in considerable power to erase that picture. I think it must be said that the Democrats, a lot of Democrats in the House tried very hard to set the record straight because of the fecklessness of the Attorney General of the United States, who I guess decided it wasn't important enough to start an investigation immediately, start indicting members of Congress, Donald Trump, immediately. Because Mitch McConnell, up until very recently, the greatest traitor to this country since Robert E. Lee, decided that even though he knew that Donald was guilty of inciting an insurrection against his own country, did not vote to convict him in the Senate and did not encourage other senators to do so. So although, of course, he was impeached in the House, Donald was not convicted in the Senate. Would have needed 67 votes. Only 57 people voted to convict him. And perhaps worst of all, they didn't even bother to make sure he was ineligible to run for the presidency again, as he should have been, because it's in the Constitution. Section 3 of Article 14 of the United States Constitution of America says that an insurrectionist cannot run for office. I do think it's the least they could have done. But they knew, as they know now, that Donald, because he's incompetent, despite the fact that he's incompetent, because he's depraved, despite the fact that he's depraved, because he's a racist, misogynistic, homophobic, anti-Semitic, Islamophobic scum, despite those things, because he's cruel, despite the fact that he's cruel, they knew then, as they know now, that he is the only person in their party who has control of the base. He's the only person in their party who has that charisma that he has. Whether we like to admit it or not, they needed him. Once again, Donald was found to have been of use to people smarter than he is. So here we are. There are no adults in the room anymore. And having gotten away with one of the greatest crimes against America in our history, and many others besides, and of course, thanks to the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court, Donald Trump has complete and total immunity to do whatever the fuck he wants to do. It's January 6th, 2026, and this year already feels like it's been a decade long, so I apologize. I'm also a little jet lagged still. It is going to be a wild ride, and we are going to have our work cut out for us. But of course, as you know, I always believe that there's hope. But we do need to be rested. Now, today, Donald addressed Republican lawmakers at a House GOP member retreat. I don't think he actually can help it. He treated it, of course, like it was a campaign rally. It was the same kind of rambling nonsense that he has increasingly engaged in. So let's check it out.
You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me. I'll get impeached. We don't impeach them. You know why? Because they're meaner than we are. We should have impeached Joe Biden for 100 different things. They are mean, and smart. But fortunately for you, they have horrible policy. They can be smart as can be, but when they want open borders, when they want, as I said, men and women's sports, when they want transgender for everyone, bring your kids in, we're going to change the sex of your child. Just send them our way. In some cases, like in Minnesota, they don't even tell the parents. Is that right? And nobody believes it when I say it. I think we have 6 states where the kid comes back. They keep the kid. They operate on the kid. They don't tell the parents. It's not believable. They impeached me. I never knew I was going to be impeached. I get a phone call. You just got impeached. I said, what does that mean? It took them 10 minutes. They impeached the president of the United States, who did a damn good job. I rebuilt our military, Space Force. I got everything. I did a lot. They impeached me for nothing, twice, for nothing.
Oh, yes, for nothing. For nothing. Twice. Because Democrats are so mean. As he said, it's unbelievable. Yes, indeed, it's unbelievable because none of it's true. None of it's true. Transgender for everyone in men and women's sports. The idea that children go to school in the morning as girls and come home as boys or vice versa. That is the stuff of insanity. If people believe it. That also, to me, seemed quite desperate. Not as desperate as it might have seemed if Donald had actually been awake while he was speaking. I guess he's feeling sleepy these days. But that was desperate. He knows that losing the midterms means a loss for him. He doesn't care about the Republican Party. Did he say that losing the midterms means that Republicans aren't going to be able to push through their brilliant policies of impoverishing American farmers and starving children and making sure they die of easily preventable diseases? No, he didn't say that because he doesn't care about any of that either. If we lose the midterms, he'll get impeached. Yeah, he will. Will he get convicted in the Senate? If he's not, then what difference is it going to make? So yes, the midterms are very, very important. We need to get the House back. That just became a little bit easier because Marjorie Greene retired or whatever she did. She left the House. And a Republican congressman in California died unexpectedly. So that narrows the margin even further. I apologize if I'm saying that in a way that seems cynical, but it just happens to be the fact. Donald will get impeached. Well, let's make sure it matters, shall we? How will it matter? Well, if the Democrats can get the majority in the Senate and get rid of the filibuster and start actually governing this country before it's too late. I want to take a second to highlight all of the evidence of the crimes that were committed on this day 5 years ago. Last month, former special counsel Jack Smith appeared before the House Judiciary Committee. The transcript of that hearing was recently released, and it shows that Smith and his team had ample evidence to try and likely convict Donald. In his testimony, Smith stated that Donald was, quote, by a large measure, the most culpable and most responsible person, unquote, for the January 6th conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election. Of the violence that occurred that day, Smith said, quote, our view of the evidence was that he caused it and that he exploited it and that it was foreseeable to him, unquote. Smith went even further, explaining in part, quote, our evidence is that He, Donald, in the weeks leading up to January 6th, created a level of distrust. He made false statements to state legislatures, to his supporters, and was aware in the days leading up to January 6th that his supporters were angry when he invited them and then he directed them to the Capitol. Once the attack on the Capitol happened, he refused to stop it. He instead issued a tweet that, without question in my mind, endangered the life of his own vice president, unquote. All true. Also true, many, many others in the government were involved as well. This did not happen in isolation. Donald is far too stupid to fight his way out of a wet paper bag, let alone organize an entire insurrection himself. I mean, he's eager enough to exploit the circumstances that were created for him and that he, of course, contributed to, but he needed a lot of help and he had it. So the question will forever remain, why? Why did the Department of Justice not indict others? And I'm not talking about the foot soldiers who just got pardoned slightly less than a year ago. I am talking about the Republican members of the House of Representatives and the Republican senators who voted against certifying the election, knowing that that was going to amp up the insanity that engulfed this country. And I have no doubt that many of them had been involved in the preparation for that day all along. Where was that investigation? Where were those indictments? Many of those people are still running our government. So, another knock-on effect of never holding somebody accountable is that their worldview becomes entrenched. I mean, assuming they're the most powerful person on the planet anyway. A lot of people, not surprisingly, are voicing opposition to Donald's renewed threat to seize Greenland. U.S. allies in particular are quite alarmed, especially in the wake of what just happened in Venezuela, which actually makes the seizure of Greenland even more likely, despite the fact that it seemed like such a joke when it was first raised. On Saturday, again, as noted, the U.S. attacked Venezuela and kidnapped its president, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife. This was done without congressional approval. And according to the United Nations, this broke international law. But thankfully, Donald did manage to alert the CEOs of big oil companies first. Because, priorities. On Sunday, Donald spoke to a reporter reiterating his desire to take over Greenland, kind of like a toddler with a bone. I know that's not a saying. Sorry. Take a look at the clip, though.
Do you expect to take an action against Greenland?
Well, I don't want to talk about Greenland. Let's talk about Venezuela, Russia, Ukraine, and we'll worry about Greenland in about 2 months. Let's talk about Greenland in 20 days.
On Venezuela, we talked so much about energy.
By the way, I will say this about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you. You know what Denmark did recently to boost up security in Greenland? They added one more dog sled. It's true. They thought that was a great move.
All right. I totally forgot that Lindsey Graham existed. So nice to see him feeling like such a tough guy. Yeah, this is all hysterical, isn't it? It's not an accident that Donald would start talking about Greenland in the wake of so far, having gotten away with murdering over 110 people in illegal boat strikes in the Caribbean Sea, like almost 36 of them. And then, of course, this, whatever it was, I'm not entirely sure what this Venezuela thing is. He got rid of Maduro, but seems not to be interested in regime change. If he had been, then Maduro's government would be gone. Yes, it's about the oil. Yes, it's about other resources. That's what the whole Greenland thing is about as well. But it's also, again, about a worldview. It's about these deeply corrupt, in some cases, utterly sociopathic, malignant narcissists deciding among themselves how to divvy up the planet. It is, again, this failure to uphold the liberal democratic order that was established in the wake of World War II, which is one of the greatest accomplishments of humanity, and instead empower fascist little Nazi punks like Stephen Miller, who is now going around throwing his weight around saying things like, quote, nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland. We live in a world, in a real world that is governed by strength, that is governed by force, that is governed by power. These are the iron laws of the world since the beginning of time, unquote, says the unreconstructed Nazi who clearly doesn't understand how evolution works. As long as we keep putting in power people like Donald, who continue to empower people like Stephen Miller, we will never, ever escape this cycle. Ever. It is time for us to do that. And this is the year it must happen. This is the time for us to realize that we don't have the luxury of time. We don't have the luxury of complacency. We don't have the luxury of believing in the best of humanity anymore. We have to realize that in ourselves and do everything we can to inspire it in other people. That is the knife's edge upon which we now stand. All right, I don't know about you guys. I'm sick of hearing myself talk. It's been a day. So we breathe. Thank you for allowing me to harangue those of you who didn't leave. Anyway. All right. Yes, it is time. Thankfully, I'm sure you're thinking, for today's emotional support moment. As you know, I think open water heals all things. And as you also know, tropical climate, tropical places are very important to me. There's something just so elemental about them. I have a hard time explaining, but whenever I find myself stepping off a plane onto an island, a tropical island, I feel like I'm home. I mean, I feel that way about other places too, like wildly disparate places like New York City and Cape Cod and Florence, Italy. But yeah, there's something about places like French Polynesia, which is somewhere I so desperately want to go to. So here is a beautiful video of gentle waves rolling onto a Polynesian beach. Enjoy it, relax while watching it, and keep breathing, please. Could that not have been like a couple hours longer? Maybe next time. What a day. What a day. But I'm very happy to have all of you here with me. Let me get to your comments, questions, etc. Debbie is a new member. Thank you so much and welcome. It's great to have you here. Diane has been a member for 7 months. That's exciting. Awesomeness. Comment. Happy New Year. Sorry, I keep losing track of time and missing the live, but I haven't missed a video. I'll try to do better. I think you're doing just fine. But yes, quick reminder, the lives are Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. But it's very helpful to be checking out the videos as well. And of course, the lives live on the page on our channel, so it's not like they disappear. Midas Cheryl, thank you so much, as always, for gifting one Mary Trump Media membership. And the Midas Cheryl twofer, thank you very much. This is Puppy and Kitty Treats Fee. Awesome. We need more of those. Yes, our cat, we have 2 cats. They eat different food. For Lyndon, who's older, has a special diet. Cap, who's about 10 years younger, is on regular old cat food. But they like to eat each other's food. The problem is, Lyndon, have you guys ever seen Spirited Away? Yeah. Well, Cap kind of looks like No Face after No Face ate all of the frogs. Anyway, the food that Lyndon is on, because Lyndon lost a lot of weight over last year, is very dense, high caloric and dense. So Cap is eating Lyndon's food, and Lyndon is eating Cap's food, and it's not good. And then, of course, the dog is trying to eat both. So yeah, so we need the separate cat and dog treats to maybe to keep them distracted from each other's food. And it's, it's a lot. It's really not. Karnak Magnificent gifted 5 Mary Trump Media memberships. That is so generous. Thank you. Elizabeth has also been a member for 7 months. Comment 7 months. Thought it would be over by now. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but I think I know what you mean. Thank you, Mary, because you and some others are helping us get through this. Well, you are more than welcome. And 7 months. That's really cool. Karnak Magnificent, again, thank you so much. This is, quote, comment, a Pepto-Bismol fee for all of us today. Yeah, no kidding. I don't know if that's strong enough. Sickening. Absolutely sickening. It is the eponymous Joe Colorado, namer of the swear jar. Thank you, Joe. That's really generous of you. Comment, positive energy fee. Yes. Find and share your positive energies. Don't let the dark and negative take over. Light will always win. I know it's easier said than done. We are a very powerful community. Thank you, Joe. I heartily concur. I second that. I co-sign, etc. It is absolutely true. Formizelli is a new member. Thank you so much for that and welcome. Broken All Broken, also a member for 7 months. It's like a big day for 7-month-long members. Cool. Comment, I've heard electrolytes are good for jet lag. Oh my God, guess what I have tons of and haven't been taking? Yeah, thank you. I think I actually knew that. I don't know. I need to get my act together, I think. Brigade 45, thank you very much for that comment. Agree with Joe Colorado. Choose positivity. Choice of action is our greatest strength, especially when we work together. Also, co-sign, completely agree. Donna, thank you so much as always. Hi, Mary. How are you doing? Donald is absolutely out of his mind. He needs to be removed from office before he does any more damage. He has to go, possibly out in a straitjacket. Well, yeah, I mean, that is what should happen. The problem is, and I don't mean to be negative, I just want to be realistic. I don't necessarily know that it will matter anymore. But that doesn't mean that I just mean it won't matter in terms of how the government is run in the short term. They've done a pretty good job of putting everything in place. So I think it hurts them it hurts them electorally, but I don't think it hurts them in terms of how they're going to run things. That's why it's up to us in November. Also, it would just be really nice to get rid of him. Let me be clear. It would be very nice for him to retire to a very lovely psych facility, which he can afford because he's stolen so much money from the American people. ECM 958, thank you very much for that. That's great. Comment. Thank everyone for being here. Love you all. That's great. Glad you're here. His Divine Scatter, thank you as always. Comment, the national debt is more dollars than there are stars in our Milky Way. That is a lot of dollars. It's kind of a terrifying thought, but wow. And guess who racked up most of that debt? You will never guess. Sorry, I must hydrate. I have the heat on. It's chilly here, and it's very dehydrating. Debbie1234 is a new member. Thank you so much and welcome. Gene, comment. We have to strategize, organize, and prioritize. Absolutely. All of that. And pace ourselves. Oh, and stay connected. Vondacht, comment. I received an email from the 50-50 No Kings and Women's March organization saying there's a protest planned for January 20th, as there should be. Good. We'll look into that and keep you guys posted. Richard, thank you so much. It's very kind of you. Comment, I did not vote in 2024 using school as an excuse. I hate that I was part of this monster coming back to the White House and it will always weigh on me, but I'm trying to do better through educating myself and voting. I'm so sorry. Well, you know what, Richard? It takes a mature, responsible human being to admit when we make mistakes. Like I always thought that being able to acknowledge the mistakes you made and take responsibility for a mistake was a sign of being a responsible, decent human being. Apparently that's not the case. That was not the case in my family. Like no. Like my grandfather never ever took responsibility for anything, and that's what he trained Donald to do, and other relatives who also were never responsible for anything. It was embarrassing, quite frankly. But now, like that's presidential, right? Now, look at Donald's minions. They never admit they're wrong. They double down. They quadruple down. It's disgraceful. So part of the problem, though, is that it's very difficult for human beings to admit when they're wrong. So instead of admitting they're wrong, what do? They keep being wrong. So I think that it takes a lot of guts, especially publicly, to say what you said. And it takes a lot of humanity to dedicate yourself to doing better. Right? That's all any of us can do. And yet somehow, like, that suddenly has become bad. Just like, being kind is weak. No, it isn't. Being cruel is easy. Being cruel is pathetic, especially when you're cruel to people who are weaker and have fewer advantages, et cetera, et cetera. So good for you, Richard. And thank you again for being honest and forthright. Lazelfied? Sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Comment, 13th day holiday today in Scandinavia. Oh, that's awesome. And here I was complaining about how cold it is in New York. I'm guessing it's colder there. Stay warm and happy holiday. Ghostly Air 59, thank you so much as always. Comment, hi Mary, you recently mentioned on Legal AF Donald's microaggressions and microconcessions, and I thought it was a brilliant point. Well, thank you. A very important observation that more people should hear. Maybe I'll make a video about it. Thank you for that idea, because we're always looking for content. Because, not much is going on in the world right now. No, but seriously, I appreciate that, and I do think it is kind of an important way to help people understand how he operates and how the people around him operate. So, yeah, I think that could be a cool video. Frownhuffs, thank you very much as always. Comment, please never stop haranguing. I think I might be constitutionally incapable of that, so we're in luck, I guess, if you want to put it that way. Allegatory? Sorry, I'm probably saying that wrong. Comment, walkout protest 2 p.m. 1/20/26, wherever you are, walkout. Oh, I like that idea. Because as you know, we have to shut it all down. JT from MN. Question. Dr. Mary, did you hear your cousins own Earth Minerals retrieval companies now? Yeah, I was shocked that my worthless, pathetic, loser cousins are raking in hundreds of millions and billions of dollars for nothing. Yep. The genetic. Forget it. I'll save that for another time. Diana gifted 5 Married from Media memberships. Thank you, Diana. That's great. Bears with glasses. Cool. Comment. Especially if you didn't vote, you should be vocal in other ways. Write letters, emails to your reps, and call to harass them when you can about things that matter to you. Yeah, listen, we all need to be doing that. Honestly, we all need to be doing that. I think if you didn't vote, the best thing you could do is what Richard did. Just own up to it and promise to do better, which is what we should all be doing. And then vote next time, right? Emily, comment, Mary, I don't know how in the world you keep any piece of your sanity. Well, who says I do? Sorry. But thank goodness, and thank you for helping us not go insane. Well, to the extent that I'm helping, I am grateful for that, because I know doing this, being with you guys, helps me too. So that's all as it should be. It's very warm in here now. My goodness. Spencer also gifted 5 Married Trump Media memberships. That's fantastic. Thank you. Short Pab, comment, Pepto-Bismol with brandy, please. Oh, not sure about that, but hey, whatever works. Violet, is a member for 3 months. Excellent. Comment. I think we'd all rather be at a tropical island right now. Yes. Yes, we would. Mary the Jedi, with any comment, with any luck, I will be able to buy a super sticker or gift a few memberships by the end of this month. I had a job interview recently. I'm just waiting to hear back about that. That's fantastic. I hope it went well and that it ends up well. And don't worry about becoming a super sticker or the memberships. Just get the job. That would be great. Fairy Moon Witch, also a member for 7 months. There must have been a run on membership 7 months ago. I'm guessing. Comment. Another 7 months. It's been a Tums day today. Tums, Pepto-Bismol, Imodium. I don't know. Yeah. 6 days. It's shocking. David, thank you very much, David. Question. Is January 6, 2029 worth being concerned about? I'm worried about the 2028 election being stolen. Let's worry about 2026. Remember I said we have to pace ourselves? Let's keep this year in our sights. I mean, whatever we do this year, whatever groundwork we lay will help us down the road. But let's focus on November 2026. So I'm not saying you don't have a right to be concerned. We should be concerned about 2028, 2029. But if we don't take care of 2026, we have a lot more to worry about. And finally, Short Pam, thank you again. That's awesome. Comment, sorry you're related to Monsters, Faye. I am too, quite frankly. But look at all the awesome people here. And again, I know it's hard to hang on to this, but there are extraordinary people on this planet. And a lot of them are right here. So let's just hold that and realize that they're really, again, I know it's like, it's annoying to hear this at this point because it doesn't feel like it, but there truly are more of us. There truly are. We just need to make that. We need to feel that, right? We need to make that real in a way it sometimes does not feel real. All right. I went longer than I was supposed to, but it's January 6th, you know. Thank you, everybody watching on YouTube, streaming on Twitter and at the Substack, The Good in Us. Everybody listening to the podcast, truly, truly appreciate it. To all of our new members, everybody gifting memberships, our super stickers, everybody giving us donations. Seriously, we couldn't do it without you. You all make days like today feel slightly less weighty and awful. Truly appreciate that. To our incredible mods for doing the great work you do. And of course, to my amazing team who finally got a bit of a break over the holidays. And I mean, I know this isn't my fault, but doesn't really, I don't think it feels like it because it's been a year already, hasn't it? And it's Tuesday, last I checked. But seriously, thanks guys for everything you do every day. Let's hope tomorrow is a little less heavy. How's that? Easiest way to help us out is just subscribe to the channel. And as mentioned earlier, we have videos dropping every single day in addition to the live shows. So watch those videos, like them, share them, comment on them. That helps us a lot. And spread the word, please, because we are trying to make a difference here. And the more people who watch, the more we can do that. All right. I will be back tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Eastern for another episode of Barry Trump Live. In the meantime, everybody, please hold everybody who is directly affected by the horrors of January 6th in your thoughts tonight. Stay safe and be kind. Good night.